You are now live.
Hey, thank you, Aisha. Welcome everyone to tonight's FBS Chat. Excuse me, I'm just getting comfortable. So today we have Adam Broadhead joining us from Congleton in Cheshire. Sounds really nice. Um, so Adam, welcome. Thank you for joining us and giving us your time.
Thank you very much.
I know very little, so I'm going to ask maybe some obvious questions, but I'd just like to remain curious about our guests. Um, I I always ask how you came across, what was your journey towards the solution focused approach?
Yeah, so it's a good one, really. So I guess I've always had that like this kind of interest in the mind, anyway, and how people think and behave. And I ended up doing psychology in at A level, and then took that through to degree level, um, and did that as applied psychology. Durham wanted to carry it on, but then was completely burnt out by the end of uni, and decided to do a lot of other things. Uh, but over the course of kind of, I suppose, my career, jumping in and out of kind of more corporate jobs, civil service jobs, and then eventually I fell into doing sports therapy, which led me, it's a very long-winded way of getting around to solution focus, but it led me to this, to working with grassroots teams in the local area as pitchside, first aid, and also sports therapy practices for them, making sure that they were working all right and everything out on the pitch, and no bones were sticking out after a bad tackle, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And on the way the to the matches, I used to stick some podcasts on, one of which was Dan Abrams' Sports Psych Show. And on one of the days, he had on Paul Z. Jackson talking about solution focus and working with athletes and looking at what you can do with athletes in terms of asking them simple questions, using nice and straightforward language, and just helping them to understand when they performed well on a pitch. And they had this good conversation, and Dan was using it as a sports psychologist in the teams he worked with. And, they were talking about how they'd have a footballer who was perhaps missing the goal each time when he's coming down the wing and putting the ball in. And they talked about, well, does it always happen that way? When was the last time you scored, and what happened then? And how did that happen? How did that feel? And I'm listening, and as I'm driving, I'm thinking, this makes so much sense. And something was kind of clicking. I thought, yeah, what a brilliant way of asking these questions. It's kind of flipping things on its head a little bit to what I'm used to. And I just got really fascinated by it. I ended up buying his book, which was obviously the outcome of the podcast, which he must have been very pleased with. But yeah, so I kind of got interested in it from that. Read the book, listened to a few more of those podcasts, and then started Googling around what it is, how it's applied, and ran into, because I think that was 2019. So ran into a kind of time where one of the conferences was going off, and due to lockdown, it was all web-based. So I kind of just signed up for it, because it said you don't need to be a practitioner or anything. So I jumped onto that, listened to a few of those conversations that were happening there in the workshops. And I just took an interest in it. I just really liked it. And it kind of felt right. Felt a really good way of talking to people, talking about things, and rekindled that kind of interest in talking about mindsets with people, and kind of looking backwards at what I'd done previously in the therapy jobs, the sports therapy and so on, and the manual therapies. I thought, oh, what could I have done there, and brought that in there. So that's kind of how I ended up with a big interest in it, really. And then took a course in it with social focus trainers. Found Naomi Whitehead through that. Actually had some sessions with her, because I thought, well, let's see what it's about. Let's not just jump into something and think, yeah, I'll just spend some money on it and see what happens. So I had some sessions, and I really liked the way those sessions went and how I ended up feeling after those. And they're always kind of like a good laugh as well. You'd come out of them feeling good and happy and energized. I just got addicted to it after that, really. And went on and did the course, and then that's been the start of it all, really.
Yeah. So that that podcast, where you heard that question of what about the times when you did go down the wing and get a good crossing or score, and coming from that psychology background, why was that so different? Why was that such an inspiring kind of light bulb? I don't know. I'm assuming it was a light bulb moment. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a bit of one. I don't have many like that, but it's definitely felt like something just went click, and I just thought, yeah, I like that. I think when you're looking at, especially if you're working in the football teams, in grassroots levels, I can only presume it carries on up the leagues, but never got that high. I had grand dreams of ending up in the Premier League and doing work with football clubs there, but as we all do. You'd find that a lot of conversations would be more about just do it better, or just rote practice, and they have a place. I do believe things like that can have a place, and you have to tailor things to the individual, obviously. But it was kind of that way of saying, well, this worked. What did you notice when it was working? And the conversations that just spiral out of that seem to be something that was, especially when you're looking at a performance point of view for sports, it was kind of taking that rather than we have to perhaps train you and drill you to be this good. It was more like, look at these areas where you're already good at. We'll pull that forward and we'll just help you pull that forward. And so you notice that, you'll then be able to continue to do that more often. And that just kind of felt a really good approach, as opposed to what some conversations can be like, especially in the dressing room and stuff, which is more about, right, this is where we all went wrong. We all need to do this more. We need to, we can't let this happen. We can't let that. It flips that conversation on its head. And that always fascinated me, just disrupting that kind of inbuilt system that seems to go off quite a lot especially in sports clubs and things like that.
Yeah. So from there, you kind of looked into finding out more, maybe getting some training. You came across solution-focused trainers. We've been trained by them as well, Adam. A shower, they're a shower. So going on that training, kind of, I guess it must have reignited something else. What happened from there on? Once you've done the training, or maybe even during that training, where you thought, I'm heading in the right direction, this is the way to go.
Yeah. So a few things pulled me away from doing just physical therapy work. That's a protected phrase, so more of the sports therapy work. I damaged my wrist for a start. So I'd got bodybuilder clients. I'm not picking their legs up with my wrist kind of damaged and so on. So that was one reason. And the other was we started a family, so I had to go into something that was going to pay me often, rather than bit part. So I moved away from that, and that gave kind of scope to begin thinking about doing things in more of that kind of solution mindset therapy angle instead. And I think from that point, I kind of thought, I want to get back into this side of it, the psychology side and more of that side of it. I was working in data implementation at the time. So it was, what can I bring into the business that's around this? I did a little talk about solution focus in the company, saying, they were very agile development process. And I was like, it ties in really nice with that. Look at what you can do. So there was kind of trying to bring it into there, and I always wanted to get into the into more of that therapy side. So doing the course was amazing. It was brilliant, really, really good course. The people I was on the course with were fantastic. Really nice group of people. Doing the little, practice sessions that we were doing, just all sounded great. It was all like just a fantastic experience, and nothing in that. I've done a lot of kind of courses and things in my time, but some of them you come away thinking, yeah, I'm not quite enthused anymore. Whereas that one left me as enthused as I'd gone in. So yeah, it just felt like a really good thing to try and bring in into whatever I was doing in life, really. But particularly wanted to start looking at doing it as a therapy with individuals as well. So yeah, the course just kind of really solidified that. So it was really good for that.
And after that course, what was your thoughts about, this is where I need to take this? What am I going to do next?
Yeah, so I started doing the Sunday ficas with the Decision Focusing Organisations group, and they were really good. Really enjoyed them. Very welcoming as well. It's really, really nice. I was listening to a lot of the podcasts as well at the time, watching a lot of YouTube videos, such as your own. And I was kind of thinking, where could I go with this? I'm in organisations. At the time, I'd moved into working in a solution software as a service industry, and they were doing risk management software. I began to think, yeah, I want to start bringing this in more to whatever I'm doing. So whenever I was doing sessions with individuals, doing the kind of introductory calls or trying to find out what they wanted the software to do, I led them like a SF session. So, how will you know that this session's been useful for you? Given all of where you're at now, where do you put yourself on this scale? I had a big scale on a virtual dashboard for them. What would take you to this position? And most of them got really excited about that. And they're, post-it notes flying everywhere on the screen and things, and lots of thought about what they wanted. My theory being that if I knew the feel of what they wanted, I could then put the very structured parts into place in the software that they needed and the kind of questions that they wanted, looking at the end rather than just the bit parts to get you there. And I quite enjoyed doing that. But I kind of wanted to bring in more than just that. I thought I'd keep in organisations and do kind of SF in organisations, and I was considering how I could bring that in. I took a job as a manager in a pensions company on an implementation team there, and I just started running the sessions, all of the kind of like daily sessions I had with staff, the one-to-ones, that kind of thing. I tried to lead in an SF manner. Took a few of them back a bit, I think, because I was kind of not just telling them what we needed to do. I was asking them to get more involved, having conversations and scaling things and asking, what goes well in your work at the moment. Trying to rejig elements of the reporting system behind the scenes. So when we're looking at the key skills we're grading people against, are they worded in a way that's a bit more SF? Can we do that? That's bringing the hopes of people forward rather than just saying, I can do this and then putting a stamp on it. How can I improve on this? What are the next steps to take to the next level? Those kind of questions. So I was bringing it in that way. And as I'm doing all of this and doing lots of interviewing for staff that are coming on and changing a few of the interview questions around, because we had the staple, where do you see yourself in 5 years, as a question. Don't like that. So I flipped that and said, how will you know that the next 5 years in this organization has been good for you? Started trying to tease things out that way. If in 3 months' time you're still in this job, what tells you that it's been the right move for you? That kind of thing. Throwing in scaling questions into their experience. And then the more I'm doing it, and I'm sat there talking through them and doing these bits, the more I began to think, I just need to go off and do this outside of a company. I need to just branch out, leap out, do my own thing. Because to tell you the truth, I'm not very interested in the day-to-day business of the company. I just want to go off and do this and help people, So I thought maybe a corporate life isn't for me. Jumped out of it to go into new ventures, really.
Because you've said quite a bit there, and I'm thinking, right, solution software. What the hell does that look like? Organizations, pensions, and all this time you're. It's almost like you're SFing up their procedures or ways of doing things, but there was something missing. What was missing for you?
I think overall it was wanting to make a real difference for people. So it's great doing it with the individuals around me in terms of the team and things like that. But that wasn't the sole purpose of my job there. I think they did hire me on a lot of, as I've spouted a load of stuff already here, I kind of did similar in the interview for them, and they were like, "Oh, right, quite interested in that." Still hired me. I thought that's good. So they were very interested in that side of it and helping all of that. But in terms of getting really down into some of the actual, the stuff they needed to do as a company and the pension side, and then there's all the corporate elements of it, that just didn't really light any fires for me anymore. I just wanted to get out and just see if I could make a difference to some people, help them. What can make their positions better. And I didn't really want to do that purely on just their jobs and how they can progress within employment. And I guess on the blurb underneath, and it talks about education and things like that, that came just before this job. I don't stay in jobs for very long sometimes. But I'd done. I was
going to say that, Adam.
I know. I've got a long list. My CV's looking very messy. So I did for 3 weeks between the two jobs. I thought I'm going to do something different, and I'd always had an interest in education as well as psychology. Long time ago, after my degree, I went for a job as a A-level psychology teacher. Came very close to getting that, pipped by someone with some more experience. Can't blame them. But it was something that was very close to my heart as well. And having a 5-year-old just entering that world, I was like, so quite interested and invested, I guess, with education. And I did 3 or 4 weeks as cover supervising in a secondary school, and it was full grain drill. I had paper plates thrown at me. I had people jumping around. It was chaos. I thought,
we've been there.
Yeah, I'm the supply teacher. I've got to expect this. It was absolute nuts, but I kind of still loved it to a degree. And at the end of that, there was so I was mainly doing PE, and I was helping out. They're all learning cricket and things. So I was able to bring in quite a bit of SF in the PE. I think because of the physical aspects of them moving and stuff, and they're not sat down, it helped. So I was able to say to them, little bits each time. What did your friend do well there when he's hit that ball? And if you throw it like that, what benefit will that bring? And try and just add a few bits rather than say, no, you're holding the bat wrong. So trying to do some bits like that. And then I had some people that were really messing about on my last day there. And they ended up getting pulled out by a teacher that was walking past the room at the time. Yanked them out, sent them to another like classroom area. I think it was in the library, where they went and basically sat and did some reading and colouring and stuff. I don't think they really did too much. And then one of the kids came back to apologise. I think he was kind of dragged back a little bit. And I just ended up running through a quick, 3-minute SF chat with him, rather than him saying, sorry, I did that. I said, well, what difference will that make to you if you're sitting in the class? And I can't remember exactly how it went, but it's this really quick kind of rapid fire, throwing the questions out of him. I could see a little thing going in his mind. I'm not saying I made a big difference to him at that moment, but there were a little thing going in his. I could see his eyes kind of thinking, he's asking some questions here. And I'd like to think I left him with that slight little ember of maybe I could do something a little different. And I thought I quite enjoyed that. Maybe I could.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question, Adam? Sorry. What difference did it make to you having that 3-minute SF conversation with that student?
It was great in a lot of ways. So in the fact that I managed to get a bit more, I think, I want to use the word truthful, perhaps elements out of him when he was actually talking to me within a very short amount of time. And that's one of the reasons that I love SF, I guess, is that in a really short amount of time with just a few questions, you can get a lot of information and change the dynamic a little bit. It felt like that was kind of shifting. And I thought there's a big place for this in particular this school anyway, and a few of the surroundings ones that are near me, that this can perhaps help, because I had a incident the week before where one of the lads that was also, he was one of the ones that was taken out of that classroom actually, he'd been effing and jeffing to the PE teacher just as I'd got down to the court, and he'd said, the teacher had said something absolutely fine. He'd just said, all right, if you wait and listen, mate, you'll all hear the instructions and it'll be fine. You'll get out and enjoy yourself. And he went, I'm not your mate, and all this kind of stuff. He got hauled off, and he says he'll be back in like half an hour and just get on with his day. It won't make a difference to him. I thought, well, that's it, isn't it? There's potentially a missing step here where when there's no affected difference. Can something be happening that? And I kind of felt that was validated a little bit in the conversation I had with that individual. And I still like to think, although he could spy his mate over my shoulder in the window and he was having a laugh about that a little bit, he was still listening and he was still answering. And I like to think that small little nugget of thought that might have happened. So for me, it was a really good experience, and it was very interesting seeing how that could quickly on the fly play out a little bit.
So from the corporate world in the management arena, and maybe changing management structures, and then that hopefully filtering down to the customers of that business, whatever it was. It sounds like you wanted more face-to-face with the end user, as it were, rather than trickle down. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, just that ability to help with people making that kind of change, I guess, rather than just changing a little bit. And that's important, and it is really important. And some people in there, and obviously the people on those ficas on Sundays and so on, it's brilliant work what everybody's doing. I just didn't want to do it in the corporate world anymore, not in that side of corporate world anyway. I wanted to be, I think I really liked doing the manual sports therapy because of that. I suppose that closeness in that. I can't get much closer, can you? got your hands sinking into someone's back, so but yeah, there's I think there's a lot of things in those kind of situations that you can really talk about and realize and help people with and so on. So I think that is something that was kind of maybe an itch that I needed to scratch.
Yeah. And you were talking about these students effing and jeffing, but I mean, me and Aisha have both worked in schools. Adam was actually the manager of the Year 7 football team.
Oh, very good.
Because as you may know, but in schools, there's not enough PE teachers. They ask for volunteers. Me, like an idiot, said, yeah, I'll do that. But they were some of the most wonderful times for me. Do you know what I mean? There was our first year, mate, we lost every single game. I think we won one game. And on the way home, it was a bit dour. But almost by the time we got the minibus back to the school, it was like, yeah, we can do it the next time. What is it about sports that engenders that kind of, I don't know. Even though you lose every game, there's still hope that you might win the next one. Do you know what I mean?
That's an interesting point, because it's almost like inherently everybody's just picking up that hope. As fans, now that's different when you flip it round and you're a fan. You're like, no, we're never going to win it. I mean, I'm a Sheffield United fan. So last season, yeah, it's not happening. We're not going to win anything. And, pretty much that's exactly the way it played out. This season's an entirely different story so far. Touch wood, keep that going. So, but yeah, it's interesting. So when I was doing I worked at New Mills when they hadn't won. They were the worst football team in the country across every league, I think it was at the time. There was a BBC News report about it. They were awful. And I went there I knew the manager. Bad. Yeah, I knew the manager and the coach from working with them at Withenshut. And they went to New Mills and said, Adam, can you come? I've been let down by the physio. Can you come and help out? So I was like, yeah, no problem. Didn't win a game. But sat on the sidelines, you sat there, and there's still the atmosphere in the... and they were great managers. They were very forward-thinking with stuff and really kind of got this idea of bringing them out and bringing them forward and so on. But yeah, I think generally the majority of the players could still feel that there was a chance to win. And it was brutal. Some wins were snatched at the dying death, and it's the way it goes, isn't it? But yeah, it's like, I guess the team and the managers, they can feel the capabilities. They know it's there. It's just getting that to happen on the pitch. So I guess that's why there's always the hope with the team itself, even if the fans are no, and having none of it. Or parents, I guess, would be your case.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say the parents on the sidelines weren't too impressed. I think 13-0 was our worst defeat. But
it's a good one.
Pretty much.
I'm actually going to unmute to laugh at that.
13-0 was the worst. But I guess part of it was we knew next week we were starting from scratch again, right? That anything's possible. And we believed it, even though every week it was a disaster. We won one game. We thought, what happened? So, yeah, I mean, love sports. Love the young people's enthusiasm and kind of thinking, all right, I'm going to get them next time. And I'm going to get them next time. And when that next time comes, it's amazing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess when that kind of statement comes out from players and things, that's a good time to, throw out the odd question and, well, what's going to make that happen, and exploring that a little bit more, which is, hopefully then making things a bit concrete for them, and it will happen and they will see it on the pitch. It is fascinating. It's
I've just seen something that I'm gonna. Sorry, Joe. Can I?
Yeah.
Am I loud? I'm gonna try and share this. I'm gonna try and share. No. Oh no. Hold on. No, it's not going to work. I'm going to read something. I've just read it. Are you ready? Say we were to meet in a local coffee shop. As we sit down amongst the aroma of roasted coffee grounds with the faint murmurings of conversation from neighbouring tables floating through the room, I ask you, so how close are you to achieving your hopes in this moment? What would you reply? Would you like to work together to get you there? I love that. It's on Adam's website.
Ah, right. Okay.
Guys, you need to check out. It's in the comment box. You've got to check out Adam's website because it's actually it's a really cool website, Adam.
All I see is my big face on it the minute I go on it now. So. Oh, thank you very much.
So,
No, it's really cool.
so so you're in schools now, you're at the sort of coalface, as it were, working with young people who are amazing. You know, as a mentor in a school, we always saw the people that were on the verge of getting kicked out, or but they all had some amazing quality that no one really ever sees in that sense unless you've got that relationship. So where did the journey go from there, from that?
So I did the like the cover supervising work there, and really enjoyed the conversations I could have. You've made me think of one there actually, in terms of just the environment, because I ended up with one group of people, and this is where I think the school's really great. You guys have a lot of experience, more so than I do in the education settings, but there was one group and there's like four or five kids in there, and it's like the Breakfast Club. There's a right spread of characters. The minute I'm clocking, I'm thinking, you're not the size of a normal class. So what's going on? And I asked that. I said, it's a bit small, this class. And they were doing biology. I said, is it just not many of you seem to be? But we're the crap kids. I was like, you are? And they were like, we're rubbish at it. I was like, what's all that about? So we chatted about it, and they were just like, I don't know how it had happened, but they'd ended up just funneling these few people into this classroom. I had them a couple of times, and lo and behold, when you start looking at them and looking at the work and saying, what do you notice about this, and trying to reframe some of the questions, different to me. Rubbish. They were just slightly disinterested, and I was always. It's easy for me to say this. I'm not a teacher, so might get absolutely lambasted by teachers. But it's definitely it's difficult when you're a teacher and you've got such a spread of students. And I wasn't exactly on it when I was doing the cover supervising. But when you've got the smaller groups and you've got the individuals, I know this is slightly away from the question, I guess, but if you're adapting your process to them, there's always a way. So when I taught martial arts, I'd have a spread of people from, I think it was a screamer, so it was the stick fighting stuff. So we didn't do that with the kids. It was more the I think it was 25 to 60 odd. So different ages, different ways of looking at the process. But they could all get the techniques that I was trying to teach them, so long as I tweaked it and changed and adapted to what worked for them. And I think that's the same in that. And it was handy in that setting. I could do that a little bit. You're not going to do that with 30 plus kids in a class to the best effect that most teachers would really want to. But that, so that was stuff that you just reminded me there, and you just thinking about that kind of situation. But after that, so I went into the managerial job, and then I've just, in the last few weeks really come out of that, and I've started trying to look at doing some things for support in schools. So by that, I'm looking at how I can support teachers, because stressful job, a lot of them, I know, so it's doing cover supervising. I know when the stress points are, and how you end up with teachers going off. Is there something I can do to help with that? And also with students, is there something I can help with the students and the pupils? So I started with my kids' school, ended up chatting to the headmistress. She invited me back for a big conversation about it. Really keen, really, all this talk about hope and solutions. Absolutely loved that. So I'm going in to do a little mini workshop on their next inset day to talk about it with the teachers as well. But just a way of seeing if there's some support there for when the, when kids are kind of, specifically when they're moving from primary to secondary. So I was doing cover a lot for the year 7s, and they'd always ask as a way of, obviously, because we're so invested in the class and they're so interested in the subject, they'd say, "Sir, you got a family, sir?" Like, could never get used to being called sir. But like, yeah, I've got a little girl, she's 5. Oh, I love being 5. I love being in primary school. And that shift straight off in her face and her eyes was like, oh, okay, she's going back to primary school, and it was only a few months ago. I used to do this, I used to do that. A voice change, a mannerisms changed. I just thought, it's a shame that when you go from primary to secondary, in some instances, there can be that almost scrub of the stuff you enjoy, and what made you then, and then what you feel you need to be in primary school. So I was talking a lot with the headmistress there about offering support during that transition, both pre-transition and post. So once they're in the secondary school, also being that link back to the primary school. You can come talk to a familiar face and, really help them with that kind of move to big school, if you like. I've got a girl that's 5. I worry about it. So, and it's important. So for me, that's one of the things I'm really looking for. And I'm quite passionate about doing that. So let's see where that takes me, really. But that's the idea I'm going with at the moment. And that's kind of where I'm focusing.
Because that transition, it can be make or break for a lot of young people, can't it? You either, because when we used to do a lot of transition work as well, we'd visit them in the primary setting before they came to us, just to try and give them a bit of a flavour of what it might be like, and then do some group work with them once they'd transitioned in. But leave it a couple of weeks to see how they managed on their own, because sometimes they settled in really, really well, and sometimes it was a real heartache. So is that why you particularly wanted to focus on the transition part of it?
Yeah, so it is a really difficult time. And my little girl's already talking about it. It's years away. It's years away. It's years away. Don't talk about it yet. But, it's a difficult time to move into that area. And I think I listen to my little girl and what she comes out with after school and what she remembers. And she won't listen to a word I say or any kind of chat I try and have with her. But if a teacher tells her something, that's it. It's law. But also the absolute fascination she has with kind of the stuff she's learning. And it feels like, and it's one of those, I suppose, it's a stage of life that is a shift, I guess. And I suppose going to the question that popped up in differences with the teachers during the transition is, I suppose, one of the things is trying to keep that excitement about that part of education alive a little bit, because it runs up to year 6. I still see it in the year 6 people in that school. And then if you could keep that passion and that enjoyment going, maybe that will make a difference for people when they get into school. I can only go on my experiences as well. And I went into secondary school and I wasn't very good at PE. I didn't feel very good at a lot of stuff, to be honest. And then, I ended up teaching martial arts and play 5-a-side football and stuff now. It's like, okay, I hit my late 20s onwards, I started getting into it. And I'm not bad at it. So you think, well, what happened there? Where was the drop off? Is there some extra support that, when you're feeling down, that could be given to help bring those students back up? So I suppose it's, bolstering passion for learning, maybe, as a phrase might work. Something like that would help keep bit of that enjoyment going. That, well, as we do in SF, that curiosity, that kind of thing, rather than it becoming all about TikTok and stuff like that, or whatever might be around at the stage that some of these kids will be going into secondary school. And then I suppose working with the teachers, as Catherine was asking, I guess it's with you helping to see a bit of an area where, where if there's behaviour that's been challenging, are there things you can do during that time that helps with that and understand that. I mean, there's just not a lot of funding for this kind of thing. I've got friends that do educational psychology and things like that. They're in there trying to do it, but not every school has that kind of support attached to them, which is a shame. So yeah, just being able to smooth that through a little bit, and perhaps help where you can. I don't know if I've really answered that much, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to share.
Agree with that.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, and it's it's a whole different environment. It's a whole, there's so many more kids around. You're no longer the eldest. What if I get lost? What if I can't make friends? All those concerns must be going through their minds.
Well, the one local to me, they changed their uniform in summer, so obviously, cost of living and all, most people don't change the uniform with it, and they're given a bit of time to do that. So now everybody you see that's just gone up there is in the new uniform. 99.9% of the people that are in the old uniform are the ones already there. How must that feel to be in that position?
Yeah.
You've driven a right wedge straight away there. I mean, it's a difficult thing to have to do, but yeah, that's like straight away. You're the new biz. Yeah. You're in the tartan trousers and skirts. We're in the grey, and
yeah.
People look for differences. They don't look for the commonalities, don't they? Especially at that kind of age when they're trying to find themselves and mold.
Yeah,
I mean,
like you say, if it's a totally different uniform, that sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean, generally, it's either it's the little ones whose uniform looks spanking new and a little bit too big. That was kind of sus to that.
You'll go into it.
Yeah. And you said earlier about teachers, and I know how much pressure they're under in terms of fitting in the curriculum, making sure they hit grades, trying to deal with behaviour, and then another service comes in and tries to say, "Oh, have you tried this?" I'm not saying there's a barrier there, because I think, like you said before, there was a 3-minute conversation with a student and it made a difference. So it doesn't have to take up a lot of time, but how are you going to persuade them to come on board with this project?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it was something I was kind of aware of from doing my own bit of supervisory work for all of like 3 weeks, but also the headmistress of the school, she talked about that as well and said there will be some resistance and things, but I guess it goes back to one of our core elements in that we're not the expert. I'm certainly not a teaching expert. I'm certainly not a how to handle a class of 30 plus expert. What I am is someone that's coming in with a bit of time and some resources and maybe the odd question that you might want to use or the odd approach that you might want to use that's going to be another tool in your toolkit. It's another spanner there that you could perhaps use when you feel it works, see how it works, adapt it to what works for you, and just see what difference that might make. I'm certainly not going in to lecture anyone. I don't have any platform to do that. I'm just going to go in and say, this is what I do, this is what I found, this is where I think it might help. But also, I've got their resources because my kid comes home with them. Look at all the fantastic things you're already doing. They've got a lot of stuff. They've got a point system that works the way that I'd like to see a point system in some respects work. You know, they're giving, it's not the old, you're just giving out participation kind of awards. They're giving out, you've got a point for something particularly well you did in class. So it's all happening. My little girl was actually a bit naughty in a class the other day, and she had to go and, sit on the carpet and think about things for however long. I can't remember what they said it was, but yeah, I was like, what's going on? Don't do that. I've got to go in and talk about how we can challenge your behaviour. My career, young girl. But yeah, so she went, but the next day, so she felt a bit guilty about it, didn't want to say anything to me and stuff like that. And then she went in the next day, and the teacher said she's had a brilliant day. She's really done well at this. She's really done well on that. And you only get like a split second to kind of talk to the teachers at the moment. But she said, at the start of the day, she did something really good. And she did that sentence construction that blew my mind, the way she knew how to put this here and that there. And she told her that. And then lo and behold, the rest of the day, she was very invested in school and very, very wanting to do well, knuckled down a bit. And I'm like, right, that's going down as an example for when we do the workshop. I'll be like, look at the difference that happened when you gave such positive feedback. So all of that's happening. I'm just going to throw some extra tools at them, really. And also say, when those situations become a bit too challenging for you or the student, here I am. I can be on site. I can, you can, if you put space away where I can sit, and you could come and have a chat, half an hour, 10 minutes, whatever, and then we can work through that. So it's very much approaching it as a scaffolding approach, as opposed to a now do this, because I don't think I'd get very far doing that with my experience. So hopefully they'll be intrigued enough to take away, and a success for me would be that they're listening to that workshops. That's that for me. But if they take away one element and they go, do you know what, I found that when I asked what else they like about this class, or I asked these people what would be an ideal class for me, what will be at the end of this class if it's been successful, and that those kind of questions and lots more, then sort of bonus, isn't it? But yeah, that's kind of that.
And I think that start to the day is so important, isn't it? Because we've worked with students where if the first lesson or the first start of the day has gone badly, it's almost like I've got nothing to lose. Do you know what I mean? And it goes from worse to worse to worse. So that start to the day, that kind of, look how amazing you've been, look how amazing this has been, and can make such a difference, can't it?
It can, and it's one of those things where if you say to someone along those, just give some compliments on it, you'll either get that whole kind of, it's a participation kind of award, or they'll, that doesn't matter to me. But if you drop feed compliments into someone, they'll react. It's almost knee jerk, that people do respond to that kind of positive feedback, whether they knowingly do it or not. It's kind of almost subconscious, isn't it? So being able to do that, even with people that I don't want to know about this, it can still help them. And the scoring system this school uses, which I quite like, the fact that the way that they give out the points is good. And that really helps. My little girl loves it when she knows she's got a point of exposure. But the scoring system I saw in the secondary school, where it was like, I can't remember which way it went. I feel it went the way that we wouldn't do it, and but they were basically saying, if you're bad, you're gonna get, you're gonna go up to a 4 or whatever, and and I had one class, and she shouldn't have been doing it, but basically the teaching assistant was sat there. It was a little bit riotous, but at the same time, I was getting somewhere with some of the kids, and they were all having a go at things. It was an art class. It was really hot, and this teacher assistant just sat there and started going, "You're on a 5, you're on a 4, you're on a 5, you're on a," and just like throwing out these like bad behavior points at everyone, and
throwing out numbers.
Yeah, you can imagine what it's like. It's kind of like in Muay Thai with the going back to kind of martial arts stuff. They condition their shins quite a lot by just hitting things and so on. And what happens if you're constantly hitting something? It numbs. It hardens to it and it numbs up. So throwing out negative points to someone is they just got numb to it. They were like, yeah, whatever. It's like brilliant, And then I had to redress that and try and unpick parts of it where I could, because the behavior just started escalating. It's like, well, obviously, because they don't care. They're not going to care that you've given them all these bad points. So yeah, I suppose just trying to maybe think, are there ways that might improve elements of that where, don't just sit there throwing out bad behavior left, right and center, because it will have zero effect.
So you're currently going to be doing some work in your daughter's primary school.
I'm hoping so. It starts with a workshop, but I picked the wrong time, didn't I? So just so I know the budgets have already been signed off. Typical.
So she might be seeing Daddy in school quite a bit.
She loves that idea. She wants me to go and be like a dinner supervisor and all sorts. She's like, Dad, will you come and work in ours? She's trying to get her mum to do it as well. Come and work in the school. Yeah, maybe not by year 6, but
if this workshop goes the way you want it to, what do you hope it will lead to?
I'm hoping it will lead to the ability to offer, I suppose, what I've just spoke about, and to be able to go in. And then if it works in that school, to talk to other schools. This is obviously a primary school. I think ideally what would be fantastic would be, especially if there were the 2 local schools that are feeding in, that you've got, when I'm talking about that transition period of going through, that you could actually be in secondary school as well. So you've got that kind of common area as well. So that would be my hope for that. And then just helping bring a little bit of SF thinking into schools. There is a lot there already in a lot of the schools that I've seen, even if it's not labelled as such. But I think there's always scope for a little bit more.
And I think because that was not my concern. What I was thinking in the back of my head was, if you do this great work when they're in primary, then they go off to secondary, and it kind of like, this isn't what I expected, or it's not working the same way. So you're hoping to get into a primary and a secondary where that work, they've got a familiar face, but also that work can continue, right?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things where I'm hoping to be able to offer that kind of, even if it's not in the secondary school, to still be in the same primary school when that year's moved up, and they can come back and still have sessions if need. Especially, if it's a massive challenge for some children moving, then that'll be, I think that'll be really beneficial for them. But also to build, so it's one thing to kind of build that resilience up when they're in primary school. And imagine if as a kid you're going through and you go into your secondary school and you're able to ask yourself or you're able to create that kind of focus on the positive aspects and the hopes that you're setting in. And you're used to being asked those kind of questions, how will you know today's been a good day when you've been at school? Those kind of questions. We've all got clients that go away and ask themselves these things, and then they'll go on the next call. I've been asking myself that every day. And you're like, brilliant. So having that as a kid and just able to just bring that little bit in, maybe that'll help as well. And that's one small, that'll be a massive success for me if one kid occasionally asks themselves something along those lines and it helps them. But also being in the secondary school and being able to actually really grow on that as well, I think would be a big benefit. So that's my my global plan of
global plan.
Local.
I like that. Global plan. We'll be right behind Adam. Let us in. Let us in. We want to join
First
the
Cheshire,
global
then the
flag.
world.
Well,
Aisha,
if there's any, yeah,
let me ask you a question. You have
me,
a young lady in primary school.
yes,
You do. In terms of
I
transition,
do.
what have you heard
Yeah.
from Adam that you think, or what would you think would be a good move? I guess because not that you know,
Well, I
not that
think good luck
not.
to any secondary school that has my daughter there. She's like the Tasmanian devil. But I think when you're in year 6, I think what would work for my child personally is in London or definitely in Enfield, the children visit the school once before they join in September. But I think doing that a few times would be great. The school I used to work for, Adam, was absolutely brilliant because I had a week at the beginning of August and a week at the end of August. So if they couldn't make the beginning, they could make the end. And it was literally all the kids transitioning into September, into year 7, meeting each other
That's
and
really good.
getting to know their teachers. And they went on a trip together and they played games to get to know where all the classes are. So when they start year 7, they already know where their form group is. They already know who's in there. They know their teachers already. And I think that's a brilliant way of supporting transition. I hope other schools adopt that because even if you're really, really, really nervous, when you go in September, you already know where you're going to go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you're already saying hello to other students and you know teachers' names. So I think that's a brilliant way of doing it. So, but for my child, my 9-year-old, who is a Tasmanian devil, but I think what would work for her
Adam,
is like
Adam,
you said, Adam.
hang on. She's got a hit list. Tell her about the
Oh,
hit
she
list.
has. She has
She's
a hit
got
list. It's actually in her school bag. She
Oh,
updates it as and when she needs to.
Hmm.
We're not on it, by the way. We are not
Thank
on
God.
it. But I love the idea of you working in the primary school and also the feeder secondary school because that's a brilliant transition. And then you can get to know the parents, get to know the kids, run some activities for them. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Oh, good to hear.
I was going to ask
And
Adam
I think
actually in terms of.
anyone in your area that works in education, contact Adam.
I was
Sorry,
going to
go on, Jack.
ask. I was going to ask Adam how important or how involved do you want the parents to be in this transition? How important is that?
I think it's important, isn't it? It's if you've got a parents' involvement, then you know the kids they're not isolated. Hopefully, you know, and they're getting that feedback from their family unit no matter what. So if they're supportive and helping and know ways to support and help, I think that is really important. You don't want the kids going into school or having all this support and then going back home and just kind of losing a lot of it. So anything that can kind of build on that, I think is really important. Parents are such a key figure, or caregivers, safeguarders. They're all vital to to that growing personality. So I think they've got to be involved and knowing the parents around here. And I mean, look at me. I've taken it one step forward and right, I'm going into the school and seeing if you want. You literally want my support in there. But every parent's got an opinion on it all, so they'll all be cascading in. And I know the parents at our school would be absolutely no different. So yeah, I mean, they've got to be aware. They've got to know. They've got to. They've got to be involved with workshops and so on, so that they know how to best support as well. It's difficult. It is difficult.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I want to do this is my worries. So, it's vital.
I think sadly in a lot of cases, as because obviously I've got kids, Aisha's got kids, you've got, when they're in primary and we're dropping them off, we have that contact with other parents, the teachers. It's more of it feels more like a community thing. You have PTAs, you go to the summer fates, and that seems to die off a bit in secondary, doesn't it? You seem to lose touch.
Yeah. I think it gets so hectic, doesn't it? And I was warned many years ago when I wanted to get into teaching. They said, don't get, because my mate was a teacher. He says, don't get into teaching. It's a mistake, mate. You know, it's awful. You've got to teach to just the curriculum and so on. And that is the stress, isn't it? And I think that is probably why teaching gets so stressful, is that Titanic of wanting to do really good for the kids and the iceberg of being forced to do it in a set way, and it would just collide. And I think people just get that. That must be one of the major factors, that you want to do well, because 99.9% of the teachers do, don't they? And they want to help and they want to support the kids. They want them to go away and have learned and so on and have successful lives. And they feel, and the teachers I know that I've spoke to anyway, feel that they can't always do that, and they're hamstrung and stuck. Whereas, you know, at least if I'm coming in a bit more external to that, not really tied by quite as many of those elements, and they could perhaps use me to help that in some respects. So yeah, it is. It's just really stressful, isn't it, for them?
So you're basically saying.
No,
go on.
I was going to ask Adam when
is your workshop?
Oh, next month.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll actually, no, what are we on? 16th, about 2.5 weeks after the half term, which here is the last week of October, so beginning of November.
No.
So around that, November the 4th, the exact date.
We'll have the address and everything in a minute.
Yeah.
That's good viewing.
Yeah. I really hope it goes well for you, Adam. I really hope it goes well for you, because those school years are so vital, aren't they? They can shape the adult that you become.
That's it. I think that's one of the reasons I really, quite passionate about it. And I've been in elements of education. I've been managers in corporate world and so forth. And you see people that come through that you can tell some of the reasons they don't cope in certain environments is kind of follows back to they're fresh, new out of school or uni, and if you can cope with that, then fingers crossed, that can always be a good thing.
Brilliant. You're a good man, Adam. Keep it up.
Yeah, I just said it. I think I'm inspired by the way that you followed your passion. And you may have had many obstacles in your way, many challenges, but you kind of overcome all of that, and you're here today, and you are fresh-faced, and you're getting into the education world. Don't know why, but it's good. We need you. The universe. I mean, Joe and I can't even step into a school anymore. We just shiver like, because we worked in schools for such a long time. We just walk in, we're like, don't make me walk into a school. But I tell you what, it's not because of the kids.
No, it's never been because of that.
It's not because of the kids that we go, ugh. So let's just leave that there. But it's not because of the kids. Let me just get that very, very, very straight. But yeah, I mean, your passion, you are an inspiration to anybody that's like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I've tried this, but my passion is leading me here. I'm going to follow it. And your kids are lucky to have you. Whether you're cleaning or in the dinner hall, whatever you're doing in a school, just make sure you're there for your little daughter, who obviously loves her daddy next to her. But we have come to the end of FBS Chat. Any last words from you, Joe?
No, I mean, pretty much said most of it, really. We've been in education for a long time, and there were some young people that just didn't fit into that and were, for whatever reason, excluded. And we can't keep doing that. We've got to find a better way, because once they leave that education system, the outcomes for them are so poor. So anything that we can do, and the stuff that you're doing, brilliant. Yeah, keep doing it.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, and I agree. I think that's the thing, and what you do with these people. Did Stefan's social focus outdoor activity course, and the work he does there, and in that particular kind of arena, how to what they can do with the kids that are struggling. It's all inspiring stuff, and really fantastic. So it's hopefully something like this will come. I'll probably come across like a right naive one, but let's hope for the positive change anyway, and see what might come forward.
Yep,
That's amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam.
I really do recommend everyone looking at Adam's website. Look him up on LinkedIn, and if you want to ask him any questions, please do send him a message. Thank you very much for joining us, Adam. Can I ask that you stay right there when I close the live? So first I'm going to end it on Instagram if I can. Yes, I can. And then, so we will see you next Tuesday with another FBS chat. My account is down. I can't log into my calendar, so I can't tell you who it's with, but I believe it's with Vicky. I think so. And if it's not, then Vicky, you got to make yourself available. Have a lovely rest of the evening, everyone, and I'll see you soon.